This is One in Five, a podcast from Providence about disability and the intersections with healthcare. I'm Sarah Quinto.
And I'm Angela Marith. On today's episode, we need one another. I would like to introduce you to Kalia Alvarez. I'm just so excited to have her here today. She has a master's in divinity and in reconciliation and intercultural studies from Seattle Pacific University. She's a trailblazing diversity, equity, and inclusion executive. She's been recognized as a Puget Sound Journal diversity champion and as a global trendsetter for fostering inclusive and supportive work cultures. She's owner and CEO of KA Consulting, and we're thrilled to have her here on One in Five today. Welcome, Kaila.
We have really been looking forward to this conversation.
I'm so happy to be with you all this morning. Seriously, this is such a joy, such an important conversation, and I can't wait to just dive in and spend time with you all.
Kaila, tell us a little bit about the communities that you identify with and your sense of belonging and how you're connected to disability.
Yes, good question. So I identify, well, first my pronouns are she, her, and I identify as a woman of color. I am a Chamorro, white, biracial woman with neurodivergent needs. And for those of you who don't know what Chamorro is, I'm also a mother of three. I think that's important to just state as
Absolutely.
well. Is, Chamorro are indigenous people from the island of Guam. So I am Pacific Islander. However, Pacific Islander also overlaps with being Hispanic, right? Like we were conquered by Spaniards. So I really relate to both the Asian community, the Islander community, as well as the Hispanic community. And I'm part of a multicultural family. I married into a Guatemalan home and community. I have Guatemalan children. And so I also have that. And as far as, the disabilities component too, right? I'm neurologically neurodivergent and have a few different learning tendencies, reading differences. I'm profoundly dyslexic. My reading comprehension is a bit different. I see the world very differently than a lot of my peers. And in addition, I also have a son. He just turned 1 year old.
Yeah.
But my son is also part of the disabilities community. He was born with some needed, medical needs. And so we're in the whole feeding, speech therapy. He's also severely hard of hearing in both ears. And so we are in the midst of learning ASL and all of that. So different ways of that, being part of that disability community.
Do you feel like your identity as having a disability has changed the way that you have embraced or welcomed or experienced your son's disability?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in a Christian faith-based community, and it's really interesting because a lot of times what ends up happening with the conversation of disability is sadly people pray it away. Right? There's a lot that goes with that as far as the pain and reality. And obviously as a parent and any of us in the disabilities community or have children with disabilities, especially ones that cause pain, like no one would pray for pain upon their child ever. Like no one, let's just own that right now. No one would want that. However, like I look at my child and I firmly believe like you are made in the image of God. I see who my son is as such a gift to the world.
Yeah.
Like who they are, who I am, just because we don't represent the majority culture doesn't mean there's anything broken with us or wrong with us. It's just a different way of being, and we get to add to the world. When it comes to disability, everybody can be a part of this at any moment in their lives. We don't know what tomorrow will look like for us and our bodies. We don't. And so really when we create a world not inclusive of that, we're actually not including ourselves at some point in our own lives. We do ourselves a disservice when we don't set high standards for how we're going to expand disability in whatever capacity of life. When we dismiss certain bodies, certain mindsets, certain ideals, right? Like, we are absolutely selling ourselves short by not building an infrastructure from the beginning. Because again, we could be a part of the disabilities community tomorrow. Like, at any point in life, anybody across the world could be a part of this community, just like that. Right. So that's what makes it really unique, is most of us just feel so detached from it. But really, it's right there. It's literally right there. And it's just a matter of how do we open our own eyes to see who we are and who our community is, whether it's close now or will be in the future. I think being mindful of that community from the beginning is really empowering to all of us.
I think that sometimes when we talk about disability, the argument that we make is, well, if we accommodate disability, it's going to make the world better for everyone, right? It's going to make it better. You know, if we have curb cuts, it's going to make the world better for moms with strollers. It's going to make it easier as we age, and it's going to make it easier for us with walkers. And I think that that's an important argument to make. But I also think that there is an argument to be made that accommodating disability is just good, hands down, right? Like, having disability in our world is better for our world just because it's there, just because its presence is there. And I think that sometimes we go a little too far with this argument of like, well, you know, it's almost a little bit of a backhanded compliment, right? Of like, you know, you as a disabled person make the world better for everybody else, right? But what about making the world better just because people have disabilities?
Right.
What about making the world better just for people with disabilities, right? Because we matter, and because our presence matters, and because it's the right thing to do.
Kaila, in the beginning of this conversation, I wanted to kind of dig into something that you said, and I feel like it's a good transition here. You said that you are neurodivergent and you see the world in a very different way than most of the rest of the people on this earth that don't identify as being neurodivergent. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that, because I feel like that really aligns with what we're saying around you need us.
Yes. Right. So my experience within school, and this is why storytelling is important, is growing up in school, the school system was not built for people like me. People did not know what to do with me. Based off of standardized tests, right? People were like, Kaila, you're falling behind. Kaila, you're stupid. Kaila, right? I don't know if you should even move up a grade. Maybe you should be behind. And right. So I was born into a world where I was broken, where the school system, because I did not fit its box, I was failing, right? Like, I was not succeeding. But according to this measurement, I was less than, underqualified, different.
I'm curious about being a woman of color in that classroom. And I don't know where you grew up, or, you know, what the demographics of the people around you were like, but can you speak to a little bit of that, of being a person of color, being put in a special education classroom, being segregated from your peers? I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right?
Yeah. And I'll try not to get emotional, but it was really harmful. Yeah. I was the only woman of color in that classroom. And what sucks about that is I didn't fit in either classroom, because the disabilities community saw me and my abled body, and I didn't belong there. And so they even treated me differently, right? And then the I know we're not saying abled body, but the non-disabled.
You say what you want to say. Yeah.
Thank you. The non-disabled community classroom, right? I I was like them, but I wasn't like them. And so I wasn't good enough to be in that space either. And if there's any takeaway to anyone listening today who is part of the disabilities, neurodivergent community, I think that's the biggest thing I want anyone to take away is negate the lies of what the world has told you that you are. You know who you are. You are fearfully, wonderfully created. You are valuable and important, and there's a place for you here, and the world needs you. And the world might not understand you, and we have the power to have a place and a space and thrive in this community. We do. We do. We do.
Hey, Kaila, there's something that we really want you to listen to. It's a conversation that Erik Wexler, our former chief operating officer and incoming chief executive officer for Providence, had with one of our employees named Jeff Cato. Jeff is fully blind, he works in IT, and he's been with Providence for several decades. We'd love for you to hear a part of this conversation, and then maybe we could talk about it.
Jeff, you have been with Providence for 37 years. That is a remarkable commitment to our ministry. Tell me, what called you to Providence and what continues to call you to Providence? Because that is a good long time in our organization.
It started as a summer work experience program in my local area. There was a nonprofit organization assigned with basically getting high school students opportunities, people with disabilities. I'm nearly totally blind. So basically they found an opportunity for me in the dietary department at what is now Providence Portland Medical Center. And so I started on again, like a 3-month summer work experience program. And when that ended, it was funny because I happened to be in one of the supervisor's office, and one of the nice supervisors said to me, "Gosh, we're going to miss you around here. You've done a really nice job for us." And I said, "Well, I'm going to miss you guys too, but you could always hire me." And it's like a light went off. It's like, gosh, we never thought of that. Maybe we could do that. So long story short, I got hired on in food and nutrition services, and I have evolved over the years, over the past, especially 7, maybe 8 years. I finally found a home where I can focus on accessibility for digital content, because that's our front door. We want everybody to be welcome and come in and be able to access our content, make appointments, pay bills, do everything that they need to do. We need equal access for everybody. And I'm so uniquely qualified to serve in a role that raises awareness about accessibility. And so, yeah, the Providence took a chance on me, is the way I look at it. They took a chance on somebody who was unproven, limited skill sets in certain areas. And honestly, I was a person who, growing up blind, was told you'll probably never have a real meaningful job anyway in the world. So try to learn as much as you can, try to have as much fun as you can, but you're probably going to live off the government for the rest of your life.
Well, I think you took a chance on us, and you gave us that gift on that day when you were working in dietary, turning to your colleagues and saying, "Hey, hire me." And by having that moment of clarity, here you are so many years later with so many contributions. Can we just take a step back for a minute? Do you ever find yourself getting frustrated that we're just not moving fast enough? Or do you feel like we are making progress, and that you, as somebody that could be a recipient of this progress, that you would, independently, give us, a high grade for doing this? Or do you just feel like, no, we're just scratching the surface?
For me, it'll never go fast enough. It's every time I encounter a website, be it professionally or in my personal life, that isn't designed correctly with accessibility in mind, it is so frustrating. I always talk about this. It really hits home when you're paying your mortgage and a bank sells your mortgage to another bank. You go on to the new website to pay your bill, and the website is terribly designed for accessibility. So you are lucky enough, in my case, to find the contact number for the company, and you call the bank and they say, look, I'm having trouble with your website. Can I pay the bill over the phone? Sure, sir. That'll be $50 additional charge. And I have to say, really? And then I have to start citing ADA laws and things like, oh, sir, we'll get back to you. Oh, yes, thank you. So that's one aspect of it. Generally at Providence, we're doing better. We are doing a lot better than we were. There are still challenges. When you design a website with accessibility in mind, or a mobile app, you're also creating a better experience for everybody, even people who are not dealing with sensory impairments. An analogy I like to use is, we're paving the highway. An inaccessible site could be a highway that has potholes and acts like, behaves like a dirt road, and you're bouncing around, and it's not a good experience for anybody.
It seems to me that the work that you're doing, Jeff, it's part of our commitment to health equity. Often when we talk about health equity, we rightfully are needing to go deeper into the communities that have been at risk and have not had the right access. I'll use that word, have not had the right accessibility to provide for a quality of life. And I don't think that healthcare institutions often think about what we are. And that is the incredibly important work that you're doing to create health equity for those that have, other challenges in life. They may have other incredible, capabilities and characteristics as human beings, but like I have some challenges, maybe not in seeing, but I do have, as all human beings have, a challenge here or there. In this case, from a health equity perspective, it seems like the work you're doing is improving what we do for those that may not be able to see or hear or ambulate. Do you think about that when you're doing this really important work?
All the time.
Oh,
all the time.
I love it.
You can tell somebody or a group of people how important this is, but until you feel it, it is so hard to get that across. One of my favorite things, and I'll segue if I can here for just a moment.
Yeah.
My team, we occasionally do this engagement called a hackathon, where we demo our tools and our offerings to the organization. And my favorite one of all time, a couple of years ago, I did a demo of a web page, or actually a couple of web pages. One that was designed very well with accessibility in mind, one that was not. And part of that demo is I shared my screen with the screen reader. And I first went to a website that was very accessible. I went to Alaska Airlines. They want my business. And so I went through and booked a reservation and let the screen reader announce every form field as I went through. And everybody thought, oh, okay. Then I went to a site that was very challenging, and very sadly, it was one of our sites. And I let them hear the screen reader announce as I tabbed over. It would say, button, unlabeled. And they got the people on the call that didn't even think about it, got to hear, oh, wow, how would you know? And I would say, as I'm tabbing over these things, gosh, if I click here, am I submitting something that I can't take back? So that was one of my favorites, is actually demoing good content and bad content. And that really hit home why this is important.
Yeah. If you wanted to convey to all of us who are listening today, this has been such a fulfilling conversation. If you wanted to leave us with an important message or something we all need to learn from you today, because I think we have learned a lot, what have we missed?
I probably just have to go back to something I said earlier, but I can't emphasize it enough, that when we are creating content, remember the paving the highway analogy. if we design with accessibility in mind, you're making a better experience for everyone. At the risk of rambling on here, I just would say, just think of accessible digital content as a better experience for everybody. You want everybody to have access to your front door. You want everybody's business. You want everybody to have good health, regardless of sensory impairments.
Yes, yes. And let's think of accessibility as part of health equity. And
Absolutely.
I think, your contributions, Jeff, you are creating health for a better world. So, Jeff, thank you so much for this Hear Me Now conversation. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're making the world a better place.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
There's so much good stuff in there.
I know, isn't it amazing? I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I relate so much to that experience and couldn't agree more that, if you just start from the beginning of having that inclusive lens, it makes the world better for everyone.
I've listened to that recording several times now, and each time I listen, I hear something different. And that sticks out to me. And this time it was that he said, I am so uniquely qualified for this position. And it made me think of our previous conversation, because it's not about Providence including and accommodating him because we are good, charitable people. It's that we need him. We need more people that that are uniquely qualified to address the needs of our patients, because, as the title of this podcast is 1 in 5. At least 1 in 5 people has a disability. And to be honest, every time I have a conversation and we record an episode here, I learn something about disability that I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's more than that. I'll bet you it's more than 1 in 5. And so we absolutely need people that can help create universal design so that we can be responding to the needs of our patients.
I love the work I do. Being a diversity advocate and leader in this space is sadly, I wish I almost didn't have a job, right? I wish I lived in a world where my job didn't even have to exist. But the truth is, I'm constantly having to show people the value and the necessity of diverse representation within their organizations, right? But this is a great example, because you need us.
Yeah.
You just need us, and we are more qualified to lead this work. And that's the sad part, is because of accessibility issues and biases, right? Just like Jeff, who, was saying, well, hire me. Most people just don't hire differences. Then again, because of a lot of bias, and we can go into this, people are statistically more likely, 70% or higher, more likely to hire someone who looks like them, acts like them, and has the same beliefs as them. But the math doesn't work. If you do 1 + 1, you're always going to get 2. But the thing is, we need innovation. We need 3. So if you want to get 3, stop hiring the 1 + 1. You need to hire the number 2.
Yeah.
You need difference in order to get different outcomes. And again, you not hiring just because we're neurologically different or physically different, right? It's more than that. It's because our minds and our life experiences and all of those are critical to how we've navigated the world. So we see the world differently, which allows us to provide different solutions and innovations and ways of naming and claiming different territories in space. So yes, we end up being the more qualified individual. We might not have the same education and background yet, but you don't need that. What you need is the difference.
Thank you so much for that. And yes, the education's hard to come by, right? Because of even what you were talking about earlier.
There's this kind of disregard of disability. And I was part of that for so long. And I think it's opened up my mind to thinking about disability in everything that we do now. So when my regular job is not about disability. My regular job is around population health. And yet wait a minute, disability is a population that is our largest minority and needs to be addressed. And so I have taken to, any time somebody asks me to do a reflection, I do it on disability. And I've said, I'm going to keep talking about this. And the more people tell me disability is not a health equity issue, it's all, it's really compliance, or people say it's not in scope for us to address, the more, to be honest, angry I get. And that fuels me. And so I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I'm going to speak up.
Angela, I am completely enthralled with your journey. I guess that's the right word to use. I am watching you navigate the really difficult halls of trying to get this issue elevated. And you have this fire inside of you that is just wonderful to see. And I want to be here to keep that flame alive. I want to keep igniting your fire, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but is it worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
We need both advocates, right? People who have experienced this, lived this, and advocating for what we need. And we also need allies, which are people who represent outside of this community and have a voice and power and authority to change the conversation, if it's something as simple as a reflection, like you said. So thank you to you, Sarah and Angela, for being who you are, bringing both sides of this story into the conversation. It's powerful. I'm just excited to watch as lives will be changed by this.
Kaila, thank you for your insight today and your time and your generous spirit. We are so grateful.
Kalia Alvarez is the owner and CEO of KA Consulting. She earned a master's in divinity and reconciliation and intercultural studies from Seattle Pacific University. Our thanks to Erik and Jeff, and to our other colleagues, Scott Acord, Deepak Thadagopan, Sean Collins, and the Disability Caregiver Resource Group at Providence. I'm Sarah Quinto.
And I'm Angela Marith. Join us next time for the final episode in this series as we hear from a physician with a child with a disability who wonders how best to respond to the needs of our communities. Thanks for listening today. This is 1 in 5.